Hey, hi everybody. Yeah, so macmost.com is my thing. I post free videos there. There's a newsletter you can subscribe to, and then I send you all the new videos every Thursday morning. And it's a really exciting time for me because, of course, we have a new version of Mac OS coming out in a matter of weeks, probably. Where we just got beta 8 this week, and guesses are that sometime in mid-October probably will be an announcement perhaps of new Macs, and at the same time macOS Monterey, or otherwise known as macOS version 12. And usually Apple releases them at the same time as new computers. So the new computers come with macOS Monterey, and they never ran anything earlier than that. And then, of course, Monterey is out for everybody else. So we've got new features in macOS Monterey, and some of them are pretty exciting. I'm going to share my screen here. And now you should see my screen there showing macOS Monterey. I'm running the beta here. So these are all things I'm going to show you that unless you're running the beta, that you'll have in a few weeks when Apple releases this new version of the operating system. There's actually quite a bit of new features, but not really a huge change in design. You'll notice things like the menu bar and the dock and all look pretty much like they did in Big Sur. Big Sur was a change in how the design looked. A lot of the icons changed, a lot of things like the borders here and the spacing of the dock and the font used. They all changed a lot when we went to Big Sur. Going to Monterey is not going to change much of that. It's just going to add some new solid features. So one of those, and one that's I think a lot of people really like, is a change to how Do Not Disturb works. So Do Not Disturb is the feature you click. If you actually click here in Control Center, you've got Do Not Disturb, and you can turn it on or off. But there was only two ways to do it. There was either Do Not Disturb on or off. Now you could go in here, and it's actually called Focus. Do Not Disturb is just one mode of focus. You can go to Focus Preferences, which actually are in System Preferences under Notifications and Focus. So in System Preferences, you can just click here. And you've got Notifications, you've got Focus. And Focus lists Do Not Disturb as the default settings here. And you can customize what Do Not Disturb does. So here I have it turned on. You can turn it on or off right in here. And I could say, I want to get notifications from, and then there's people and apps. So I could add from my list of contacts, people that I want to get notifications from. And now those notifications will come through when I have Do Not Disturb turned on. I can also go into apps here and say, well, there's certain apps like Calendar. I want to get calendar notifications when Do Not Disturb is turned on. There's some options in here, like for instance, allow calls on a Mac. That would be FaceTime calls from everyone, all contacts, just favorites, or a group that you created. Allow repeated calls, which is like when somebody tries to call you repeatedly in an emergency, those go through. And time-sensitive notifications. So certain apps send out notifications that are labeled time-sensitive, like when an event is about to happen or a reminder set for a certain time, as opposed to just like the news app just sending you, saying something like there's new items or whatever. So you have those options. You can also set Do Not Disturb to turn on automatically with a whole variety of automations. So you have time-based automation, location-based, and app-based. Location-based would mostly be for, when you use the iPhone, all these sync across iCloud. So having like Do Not Disturb go on automatically when you're a certain location is probably more about your iPhone than a Mac. But, if you have a MacBook, it would work there too. App would be, if you're using an app, it may automatically turn on Do Not Disturb. And when you leave that app, it may turn it off. And time allows you to have it turn on and off at a specific time. Now, you can set all of this up for Do Not Disturb, so you can really customize it. But the most powerful part of this whole thing is you don't just have one Do Not Disturb. You can click the plus button here and add another one. So it gives you 5 suggestions here, like reading, work, personal, and you can add one of those, or you could add custom, which you can set it for whatever you want. color, assign an icon to it, and add. And then that appears here. And this is just like Do Not Disturb, except you could set things up differently. So for instance, you could set one up for when you're working. You could set one up for the evening. You could set one up for night. You could set one up for when you're watching TV. You could set one up for when you're writing. You know, you can create all these different variations because each one kind of has its own, you know, set of needs. Like when you're writing, you may want nobody to be able to get through to you except your spouse. When you're working, though, you may want coworkers to be able to send you messages. When it's in the evening, you may want friends to send you messages, but maybe at night when you go to sleep, you don't want anybody to be able to, you know, send messages and you get a notification for them. So you can set up as many of these as you want. And here there's a share across devices at the bottom. So that shares all of, you know, which mode you're in with your iPhone, your iPad, whatever you've got. Now, notice I've got two now, Do Not Disturb and Test. So when I go to Control Center and I go to Focus, I click here and I could go to Do Not Disturb for 1 hour or until this evening. I could go to Test and I could set it for 1 hour or until this evening. So I could put on test mode rather than Do Not Disturb mode, whichever one I want. There, there, test mode is on. So this really allows you to just basically set up as many variations as you want on Do Not Disturb and then easily switch between them. So a ton of people requested this. I think it's a great feature. I think having one Do Not Disturb was probably really restrictive. Having a few of them is great, but now you can have as many as you want. So you can really customize things to your liking. So yeah, so if there are any questions on that, yeah, definitely I think useful for bedtime, and especially because in the past, I mean, I personally, I want it to be different in the evening than bedtime than during the working day. And that's 3 variations right there, but Do Not Disturb only allowed me to have 2. So this right away I'll be using for that. But then when I'm recording videos, because I record, you know, these videos every day, I want a whole different set of things on Do Not Disturb because I want very few notifications to be able to get through while I'm recording so it doesn't interrupt what I'm doing. I would probably use that same one right here since I'm giving a presentation. I'd want it to be like recording level, you know, set of Do Not Disturb things. So, so that is one of the biggest new features. Another big new feature is something that actually we have now because although it's part of macOS Monterey, it's also Safari 15, which we were given by Apple last week or the week before. So Safari 15 works in Catalina and Big Sur, but in Big Sur only, you get a lot of new features that are also going to be in Monterey. So pretty much what I'm going to show you now, if you've updated Safari, you're going to have that even if you're not at Monterey yet. Oh, and there's one question here I want to get to. Do emergency contacts still come through on Do Not Disturb? Yeah, there was that setting there for having that come on. So you could go in here and under options, you had two things you could do. You could allow repeated calls, which that's the technical like emergency contacts. But also you could go in here and allow calls from, and you could set up a group to come through if you want. Will I, until I leave this location, but still be on the iPhone? Yeah, because you could, it's definitely, it should be there when you're on the iPhone, but also you saw it here when I was looking at the automations. You know, you could do location-based automation. So you could do, you know, for a specific spot or something like that, and it should turn on and off when you're in that location. So everything that was in Do Not Disturb should be there. But now you could just set up multiple modes and multiple options. So,
Mitch, can you go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, I was just going to add on the focus. I really use that a lot. And when you turn it on a Mac, it automatically goes on my iPad and my iPhone as well. And that's really nice.
yeah, definitely. In most cases, people want to have it across devices, but sometimes not, because sometimes people really want to silence, say, have like, you know, their phone silenced, you know, and in that mode, but then maybe not their Mac. So it's only their Mac actually giving them the notifications. And you certainly could, uncheck that share thing, and then you could set it independently on your devices. So any way you want to do it. So in Safari now, Safari 15, which is part of Monterey, but also you can get it for Big Sur. We have a whole new way that tabs works. So before, if you opened up a web page, and let's open one up here, and then I'm going to create another tab just with Command T, and I'll go to another website, and let's create another tab like that. So I have 3 tabs open here at the top. So already they look different. Instead of the design before, they're now these rounded rectangles here at the top. So a little bit of a different look to it, but in general, it's about the same. However, this is only one of 2 modes. The other mode, if you go to Safari Preferences and go to Tabs, is the compact mode. When you do compact mode, it compresses everything into one line here. So you get your tabs there, and whatever tab is active is the one that you can actually type into. So the address field or search field is part of the tab itself. So this saves a little bit of space at the top. It's a little bit more of a modern look. Apple originally was going to make this the only way Safari 15 worked, but they decided to actually give you the choice between the separate address field and tabs or combined. But I really like this new look. I'm going to try to get used to it because obviously, more screen space is always good. And you have all the functionality here. It doesn't give you quite as many buttons up here at the top, but this button here gives you access to everything that you need. So you can still get to everything you need in a smaller amount of space. And then if you don't like it, you can switch it back to that mode. Now that's just a design thing. The big difference is something called tab groups. So here I've got 3 tabs open. And if I bring up the sidebar here, it'll show me at the top I have 3 tabs. So these are my ungrouped tabs. And this is the default how you would normally use it. But I can create a tab group. And you could do that in a few places. You can click this button right here as one of them. And you can say, I want a new empty tab group, or I want to create a tab group with these 3 tabs. Let's create a new empty tab group. And you can see it has a new section here called tab groups. And I can, do something like call this movies. And in this tab group here, because I have nothing, I just have a blank page. So let's go to like IMDb, and let me create a new tab. And maybe this is Rotten Tomatoes. And I've got 2 tabs here. And this is part of the movies tabs group. Those 3 ungrouped tabs, they're part of this tab group here, the ungrouped group. And here you can see those. So I can switch between them. Now, functionally, there's no difference here between how it worked before in terms of, what you can really do, because you have 5 tabs open. So you have these 2 and then these 3. But by grouping them together, it makes them easier to see. You don't have this just huge stack of tabs here. And you create as many tab groups as you want. So I could create a new one here. I'll call this Apple, and I'll do, an Apple site, Mac most, and some other things. Go to Mac rumors, that kind of thing. And then I have these, and this is all part of the Apple group. There's the movies group, and there's my ungrouped tabs there. A lot of things you can do inside these. For instance, you could drag them around to rearrange them. You could also control click, and you can move to a tab group. So I can move this to the other tab group if I want, or the ungrouped tabs. I could arrange the tabs by title or website alphabetically. I could just drag and drop if I want to move a tab as well. And I think I ended up creating a new window there. So you can do a lot to organize these things and try and control your tabs. Each has a tab overview, which is this button here, but also this button. So you can go to tab overview just like before, search through the tabs in this group. I could go to this tab group in the overview, or this tab group here in the overview. So it's just a better way to organize your tabs. You have unlimited tabs like before, but now you can organize them in groups, and it kind of keeps them pinned. you know, like before, if you use the pinned functionality, the idea is I don't have to close these two to clear space up. I could just, you know, have them in their own group. And when I'm looking at another group or my ungrouped tabs, you know, these tabs aren't getting in my way. And yes, they do sync across iCloud. So you can have the same tab groups in on your iPad and iPhone if it's running iOS 15 or iPad OS 15, the groups sync across. So so yeah, this is something you can use right now if you have Safari 15. You don't have to wait for Monterey. Are there any questions about tab groups?
I have a question sort of related to tab groups.
Mhm.
Will enabling tab groups affect any of the bookmark folders that were created previously?
No, bookmarks is completely separate. So you can
Okay.
still, if you like using bookmarks for things, you can use bookmarks. I mean, bookmarks, you know, the pages aren't really open. They're not really active. You know, they're just be able to go to it. Whereas tabs, they're there, ready for you to switch to. But yeah, the bookmark functionality is all the same, and no real change there.
All right, Donna, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. Can you have sub-tabs? So in other words, have topics nested?
No, it's just individual groups like this. You can't really put like a folder of tab groups or anything.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks.
All right, Greg, you had a question about the clipboard. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Go ahead. We can't hear you if you're speaking, Greg. Okay, Greg,
Yes,
go ahead, Greg, go ahead.
the clipboard icon up in the upper right in the Apple menu bar
Board.
on the screen that I'm seeing.
Oh, this? Oh, no. This is just I'm doing, this is a screen sharing window. So I actually have Monterey running on my MacBook Pro, and I'm screen sharing it to my Mac Pro and then sharing that window with you.
Oh,
That way
okay.
I can do my presentation on Big Sur, and yet you can see what I'm doing here. So this is when you do screen sharing between Macs, you see things like control, scaling, clipboard, and all that. It's underneath this line that is actually the Mac's screen. This is just window stuff.
That's too bad. I was hoping for improvement on clipboard, but thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Chaz Cone, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question? Chaz, are you there? Chaz's question is, does Safari remember to reopen, refresh those tab groups when starting?
Yeah, it seems to, in my experience. I haven't really tested to see how quickly things load up. Of course, I rarely quit Safari, so you know, because I'll always have it open, usually in its own space. But I suppose I haven't noticed any issues when, say, if I've had restart in a Big Sur and then restart back in a Monterey, then I'm starting up fresh, and then the tab groups are just there. But I could try it right now. I can quit Safari and launch Safari again. And then here I am in this. So it does seem to reload them like that. I don't know if it would have done that eventually if I would have waited before going to the page. So.
Okay. Chaz, I see that you did unmute yourself. Did you have any other comment?
No, thanks a lot. And hey, Gary.
Yeah, hey Chaz, how you doing?
All right, Lawrence Decker, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sorry, working on an iPad Pro. Question I had was, can you show us navigating group tabs without the use of the sidebar?
Yep, so I've closed the sidebar here, and you can see I've got this little menu here. I can click that, and I can go from one group to the next. So if I wanted to go to like this group, I go to the group and it brings me to the last open tab, and then I can switch to the tab that I wanted. So you do have that ability. I don't think I kind of remember there being some way to get directly to a tab. I think it's in here. If you do have this sidebar open, you can control click on it, and then you can jump directly to a tab if you wanted to. So like that. But with it closed, you do have the ability to at least go here and navigate.
Does that answer your question, Lawrence?
Yes, it did. I just wanted other people to be aware of that. I already knew it.
Oh,
All right. Thank you very much.
Cool.
All right. All yours, Gary.
All right. So let's take a look at some other things. A lot of new stuff. So let's I just want to get Safari out of the way, and let's go and take a look at Quick Notes. Actually, I want to bring back Safari. Quick Notes is a new feature in the Notes app that allows you to start a note just really quickly, but it has a few other special features. So the keyboard shortcut for this is the FN key, or if you have a newer Mac, it's the globe key, right? The globe and the FN key. Apple's kind of relabeling that. And if you do that and a Q, it launches Notes and brings up a quick note, although it didn't there. There it goes. So new quick note. So it's a way from anywhere on your Mac to quickly start a note. You don't have to launch Notes, start a new note, and then go into it. It's like one step instead of 3 steps. But you could do other things with it as well. Like, for instance, here I am in Safari. Let's go to a page, and let's say I wanted to start a quick note. I could do that keyboard shortcut. I also could go to the bottom right-hand corner, and this little white square shows up, and I can click on that. Either way you do it, it brings up the same thing. It brings up Notes with the new quick note. Now, because I was in Safari when I did that, if I click this button here, it will allow me to add a link to that page I was on. So I can instantly start a note from Safari and then add a link to that Safari page. Really handy way to create a note for that page. So I'll type this as a note, and I'll close this note. And you can see in Notes now, there's a new section here called Quick Notes. And every time you create a quick note, it appears in this Quick Notes section, separate from your other notes. There's a preference in Notes for when you use the keyboard shortcut or click on the square at the bottom right-hand corner, does it resume your current quick note, or does it create a new one every single time? So you can choose which way you want to use it. And then the quick notes stay here in this special section, but you can move them if you want. Let's see, I think you can move them like this into the regular notes. There it goes, into Notes. So you can start as a quick note, take a few notes really fast, and then later on when you get time, you can then organize them into whatever folders you've got for your notes. So the Quick Notes functionality should make notes a lot more accessible for people. Certainly in the past, sometimes I've wondered, why don't I just use text edit to create a note instead of Notes, and then I could create this little file. There's advantages and disadvantages, but Quick Note really gives me this opportunity to get into Notes faster than anything else if I want to write something down, since it's just a quick keyboard shortcut or a click at the bottom right corner there.
And what were those keyboard shortcuts again, please?
So it is the FN key on the older Mac keyboards. On our newer Mac keyboards, there's an FN and a globe on the key, and then Q. And you can actually customize that in System Preferences, Keyboard. We look under Shortcuts. You can see in Mission Control, there's the shortcut for Quick Note. So right there, and you can turn it on or off. Also, in a Mission Control, you've got hot corners, and then there's the Quick Note in the lower right-hand corner. So you could put it in another corner if you wanted to, or turn it off if you didn't want that functionality. So Quick Note's a little handy, just a handy way to get into Notes fast. And it also works. There's a Quick Note functionality on the iPhone and iPad as well. of course, since, Notes syncs across everything anyway. But I think it's particularly useful on the Mac for taking
Right.
notes about websites and things.
All right, Bern, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, hi, Gary.
Yeah.
When you share a quick note, does that open up in Notes? Does that activate the Notes app and you see it in Notes, or can that be a separate file? Like
No,
a
it's
like a text edit file.
Yeah, no, it's part of the Notes app.
So it's a what's the word? A combined database of the data from Notes. It's not a separate pieces like separate
Right.
files.
Right, it's not separate files. I mean, you could always, export from it, but it isn't as separate. It is like it's all part of Notes, just like the existing Notes.
And they don't have a share function like to do that specifically from the share menu. Just
Let's
send
see.
it out as a separate note, or like
I mean, the
save it
notes
in a folder in Finder.
Yeah, you can export as a PDF. You could share it out. So if I share it in Mail, you can see how it created a piece of text there. There's that link. There's the text I wrote. But there's no way to, I mean, you could just copy and paste, of course.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Gary, all yours.
Okay, and somebody asked if I could make the pointer bigger, and that was actually one of my future things, but I'll do it now. You probably saw me in System Preferences. There's the ability inside of accessibility in Display Pointer. Now, there's the pointer size. You can make it bigger and smaller. And for some reason, when I'm looking at it here on my MacBook screen, it's a really smooth, size growth. But for some reason, screen sharing, it jumps right here. So it is a gradual thing. But a new feature of Monterey is also the ability to change the outline color of the cursor or the pointer and the fill color. So you can really customize your pointer like that. So yeah, so that's a new feature. I know a lot of people have asked me in the past. It's a pretty popular question if they can make the pointer larger or have it be a different color. And now you can. So getting back to Notes, there's some other features of Notes. There's one in particular, and that is tagging. So the ability to add keyword tags to Notes allows you to kind of create your own organizational structure. Before we've got these folders here and you put a note in a folder. So the note's got to exist in some folder. It can't be in multiple folders, for instance. But now you can actually tag a note. So I could say tag this note with project. And all you need to do to tag it is just use the pound or hashtag symbol and then type anything you want, as long as there's no white space in there. So I can create a tag just by typing hashtag project. I can, create any other tag I want. And notice here, every time I add a new tag, it appears here. So I can go into this note here, and I could also type the same hashtag. And then when I click on these, it'll show me the notes that have that tag in place. So it's kind of like a free form kind of thing. You could put these hashtags wherever you want inside the note. So you could use them naturally, like people do in social media, where you could actually put a hashtag in the middle of a sentence, and then you have this ability then to organize things. So you could put multiple hashtags in notes, see which notes have those hashtags, and access them that way. This kind of greatly multiplies. That's a whole new dimension really to organizing your notes. So you can still have these folders, but now with hashtags, you can have notes that refer, to each other and to projects and how they're grouped together in any way you want. You can basically use your own kind of ideas for creating organization inside of notes. And
Is there-
also, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, there's also this functionality in reminders. Reminders are a little bit different in that when you go into Reminder, there's actually a separate field for tags, but you can actually use the same tags in there. So you don't just put it in the tag by itself, you put it in this special field here. But once you do, you'll see the tags appear here and you can look at that. So you can have several reminders lists, just like you have several folders of notes, and then tag different things with different, tags, and then be able to quickly see all of those things here. You can even select multiple tags. So it works more or less the same in notes and in reminders to allow you to organize these things more.
So how do you select multiple tags to add them to a note?
Well, you would just type, or as you begin to type, if I wanted to add the new one here, you could see how it does autocomplete. So I could just hit return and autocompletes with that. And if I wanted something new, like something like that, it would create it on the fly.
So
And
every
then
time you type the hashtag, it's going to show you a list of all of the tags that you have available.
Yeah,
Okay.
like that. So then you say, I don't know what the limit is, probably. I imagine right away people will start having hundreds. There'll be those of us probably like me that have like 5 tags, and then there'll be people that have like 400 tags.
That would be me.
yeah. But then all you just start typing, like you type the first letter and it narrows it down pretty quickly.
Okay, good. Bern, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, is the tagging system independent of the Finder's tagging system?
Yeah, it is independent. So it's not related. I would imagine, and just speculating here, that Apple's kind of introducing a new kind of tagging system here, and that maybe in the future that might spill over into other things. Like, for instance, it would be great if the tagging system in the Finder changed to work more like this. And then wouldn't it be awesome if this spilled over into Mail as well? So, maybe this was the first and easiest place for Apple to establish it, see how people like it, get feedback, and maybe next year we'll get more tagging in more apps.
Frank, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, Gary. How you doing?
Good.
I just wondered if Monterey, the operating system, will allow for printing a selection only in Safari or Notes or anything.
Yeah, I don't, there's no new feature I know of that allows that. I mean, when I need to do something like that, I usually just do like, print and then, open in preview. And then, grab a section like that. Copy, new from clipboard, and then print. But I don't know of any easier way to do it that Monterey is allowing.
Well, Chrome works.
Oh, Chrome has its own little thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah. But as far as a universal system thing, yeah, I don't know of any special Safari feature or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Linda, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Morning, Gary.
Yeah.
Could you show your note window for comparison with the quick note?
Yeah. So, I mean, usually
window?
notes, yeah, notes, appears here in this, 3-column view, and you've got this, but you could also double click on a note to break it out of its own window. And that's kind of what you get when you do a quick note. So if I do the keyboard shortcut here, quick note is just automatically broken out into its own window. I guess the idea there is it doesn't have to take you away from this note. If I'm in this note and I want to do a quick note, I don't want this to change. So it gives me a new note and a new window. But that really isn't new functionality, since we can already do that with any note. It just, quick notes, I guess, start there, whereas regular notes start here.
Thank you, Linda.
Okay, either I'm not understanding you or I didn't express myself very clearly. Is the window we're seeing a notes window, or a quick notes window?
Oh, so if you're asking if they're separate apps,
Yes.
they're not. So this window here, I just created a quick note. You can see I'm in the Notes app.
Oh.
So it's just,
Okay.
just a window inside of the Notes app. It launches the Notes app and launches and gives you a blank window to start with.
Okay, gotcha.
Peter Emery, can you ask your question?
Not so much a question, more a statement. Frank Salvatini's question about printing a selection. I use a virtually instant optical character recognition app called Text Sniper, and I can copy, and I use it in association with a clipboard manager, which can save up to the last 99 entries in the clipboard. So I just do a snapshot of the selection of text on the web page, and it goes into successive separate clippings in the clipboard manager, and then I can paste those into a note or a text edit document, and that works for me.
All right, thank you, Peter. Carol, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Just wondering if quick notes will be accessible from the watch. Wish the Notes app were, and it is not.
Yeah, no, I would imagine it would just be part of the of Notes. I mean, if it were able to come to the Apple Watch, that would be cool. I mean, at least it would be useful to be able to see them right on the watch.
Exactly. I've learned of an app called Drafts that is available on the watch and
Yeah.
seems to be what Quick Notes is. But
Yeah.
anyway, thank you.
All right, all yours, Gary.
Okay, so I want to go over to some really fun stuff. Let's go into Photos here, and let's take a look at something called live text. So live text is the ability to be able to copy and do things with text inside of images. So I've got an image in here that should be some text. Let's see. Oh, there was the street sign right here. So here I am. This is the Photos app. So the Photos app inside of macOS Monterey. And you can see I've got a picture of some signs. So if I move my cursor over where the text is, it changes to a text cursor, even though this is a photograph I took with my iPhone. And I can select the text. And I could even Command C to copy it, and then, switch to another app and paste in that text. So this is called live text, and it's part of Photos, but also part of other things in the operating system. So for instance, we could go to Safari here, and see, I saved a bookmark, something I saw earlier. Here is a picture somebody took of a road sign, right? And so it's an image in Safari. If I move my cursor over, my pointer over, you can see it actually allows me to select the text inside the photo. The text isn't even straight. It's at an angle and it's with perspective and everything. But I could copy there, switch over, and paste that text in. Not only that, but you can do other things. If you control click on text like this, you could use the translate feature, which I'm going to show you in a minute. You could also do lookup if there's a particular word you want to look up. You could do anything you do with regular text selections, you could do here inside of using, just looking at images and things. There's even the ability, I don't have an example here, but if there's a phone number, you could call the phone number using FaceTime. If there's an address, you can get a map location, that kind of thing. So it's just a really useful thing, and it works in just about any app that shows preview. I mean, probably third-party apps probably gonna have to change, an update to take advantage of this in Monterey. But with the basic stuff, like in Mail, for instance, somebody could send you an image, and the image is a photograph of something, and you could actually copy and paste the text inside that image right there in the Mail app. And actually, I see there's a comment here that it's only for the M1 Silicon Macs. No, it's not actually. It was originally when Apple announced this. They said only for M1 Macs. Sorry, And then somewhere around beta 3 of Monterey and iOS 15, they said, guess what? It's going to work on Intel Macs too. So yeah, it'll work on Intel Macs. There's probably a cutoff at some point, you know, well, I think if your Mac can run Monterey, it should be able to do this. So Intel and M1 is the cool thing. And you can't replace the text once selected, of course. I mean, the image is the image. It's just there. It allows you to select it and extract that text. And then, like I was showing before, there's the translation feature, which I'll show you shortly. You could take a photo you had that it has a sign in another language and then translate that to English right there in the Photos app or in Safari or something. So are any questions about that?
Nope, just waiting for you.
Cool. This of course works on iOS 15 and iPadOS 15. And one of the I have a video coming out in a couple of days. One of the cool things you can do on the iPhone is you can actually use it right in the camera app. So in the camera app itself, when you go to take a picture of something, a little outline forms around text, and then a separate button appears. And if you tap that separate button, it allows you to extract the text without ever taking the photo. So for instance, you could be looking at a sign that's in another language, and you could point your camera at it, tap the text button, and then translate it to your language without ever taking a photo and saving it to your photos library. So the translation feature, which works with this too, let's go to like a site here that's not in English, and maybe to a, maybe I find a link and I go to this article and I want to read this article, but I can't speak French, so I can select text here, and this is just like live text. This works across all the different apps. So it'll work in Mail, it'll work in Safari, it'll work in TextEdit, it'll work in Pages. If I select text and I control click it or two-finger click on a trackpad, right click on a mouse, one of the options here is translate. And it brings up this system control here. So this is a special system-wide control. It predicts the language, but if it gets language wrong, you can change it. Shows you this here, you can actually have it speak it out to you. And then it gives you a translation, and you can change which language it's translated into. And you get your translation right there. You could have that spoken as well, and you can also copy the translation. If you're doing this in an editing app, like you're doing it in TextEdit, there'd be an additional button here for pasting the translation over the existing text. And this works, I said, in all the different apps and with live text as well. So no more going to translate.google.com and copying and pasting this in or using the URL there. You could just do this as part of macOS Monterey. So any questions about that?
Not yet.
Okay, well, let's take a quick look at a simple little change to mission control. So let's, I have Safari here with the window. Let's open up, let's say reminders. I already got notes open. And let's say in Safari, I want to go not to full screen, but split view. So I hover over the green button here. I go tile window to left of screen. And then just like before with split view, I get to pick what app is on the right side of the screen. So let me pick reminders. And that's all the same as before. What's different now is that when you go to the top here and you get the buttons again, I have the additional option of replacing one half of the screen. So I could replace reminders with, in this case, I had notes running. So I could do that with either side. So I don't have to quit out of the whole split view and reset it up with two new apps. I can just keep going between, the apps that I've got. So that's definitely really handy and will save people a lot of time. And actually, I think make a split view more accessible, because before you feel like you're kind of locked into using these two, and it's kind of a pain if you want to switch. But now you could have, say Safari in one, and then maybe sometimes you're taking notes in notes, and sometimes you're taking notes in pages, and you can kind of switch between notes and pages in the other half of the screen pretty easily. So I could see people getting a lot more used to how to split view because of this simple change. So if there are no questions about that,
None. I don't see any.
great. Let's go to another small thing, but I love it. This is voice memos. So voice memos, of course, isn't new. And voice memos is great because it syncs over iCloud. So you could be driving, say, have some great idea, turn on voice memos on your iPhone and record yourself talking. And then later on, you're sitting at your Mac and you go to voice memos and there's your recording and you can listen to it. Now that you're sitting at your desk listening to it, you can actually take actions and do things. The only problem with voice memos is it's hard if you're not going to speak succinctly. If you're going to go and say something 30 seconds, here's what my idea is, then great. But if you want to turn it on and say just whatever comes to mind and then pause and think for a while and then speak some more and all of that, you end up with all these periods of silence. So you tend to have to pause your recording and start your recording again, or you end up with a recording with lots of silence. But now there's an option to skip silence. So I can select a memo like this, and you can see there's periods of silence in here. So this may have been me talking about an idea and pausing to think about what I want to say next all the time, maybe sometimes pausing for even a minute or more. Now I could just keep recording. I go into settings here for this particular voice memo. And in addition to speed control, which is really nice, I could also select skip silence. And now when I play it back, watch the playback head as it skips over the silence here. So this allows me to maybe spend 5 minutes talking into my iPhone about an idea I have. Only about 45 seconds of that is actually me talking. And now when I go to listen to it, I can actually listen to those 45 seconds and not have to listen to 5 minutes, including all the silence.
That's pretty cool. Stephen Ramirez, can you unmute yourself and ask a question, please?
Can you do that in iOS?
Yes.
That pause feature.
Yeah, you
Cool.
can, the skip silence is in there too.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. All right, all yours, Gary.
Great. Let's take a look at a lot of other little cool things. Well, actually, I do have one more big thing. This is actually, Apple's talking about this like it's a little thing, but it's actually monumental for some people. So we have FaceTime. And the problem with FaceTime is that you have to talk to other people that use Apple devices, right? You want to FaceTime, you FaceTime with other people with Macs, iPads, iPhones. If somebody's got an Android phone or a Windows computer, well, you're going to have to use Skype or Zoom or something else. Well, not anymore, because there's a new feature, and Apple's basically just calling it creating a link. The idea being that you click on create a link and it will create this new link. I'll just copy it to the clipboard, but you see how there I could actually send it in mail or messages or whatever. And it creates this chat room, this FaceTime chat room that's kind of there, even though you haven't started it yet. So by copying it, the person on the other end gets it. And if they're on an iOS device, they could click that link and it launches FaceTime and they're in. A nicer way to kind of join FaceTime. But what if they're not on an iOS device? What if they're in another system? Let me simulate that by actually doing a new private window. So a new private Safari window, but let's pretend this is like a Windows computer. And they paste in this long URL that they get, facetime.apple.com, and they go into it. They'll actually get an invitation to join, and they could type their name and continue, and they give permissions, and it actually lets them join the call in the web browser. So now I can actually, they'll join. And then in here, I could join. And now you'll see, basically I'm talking to myself here on the same computer, but this could be a Windows computer. This could be an Android phone in the browser. So by adding this FaceTime links feature, they've actually opened up FaceTime to be used by more people than just Apple users. It would be nice in the future if there was a FaceTime app for Android and a FaceTime app for Windows, but at least now people can join in the browser. So you can see how I could think that, for some people, this is a monumental change. I mean, imagine if you want to do a group chat with like 5 friends, 4 of them have iPhones, and then the 5th one doesn't. It's like, oh, we're going to have to use something else. Now you don't. You can invite that for 5th person and they could just join in on the web browser.
Yes, it is about time. That is great.
Yeah. So big step.
While you're on this pause, we have a burning question
Yes.
about what you're using for screen sharing. Are you using another third-party app?
No, you mean just screen share between my MacBook Pro that's running Monterey and my Mac Pro that I'm on Zoom on? I'm just using the built-in Mac screen sharing.
Okay.
So just you do view or actually, where is it in Finder? You do connect, go, connect to server, and I browse and I look for that other computer and select it, and then you can file share or screen share depending upon what you have turned on, and then just screen share. That's all I'm doing, and the machines are right next to each other on the same network, so it makes it really easy. Probably if I was given this presentation in a week or two, I may already be upgraded to Monterey, but usually I hold off on my main computer, my Mac Pro, until very close to the end, or if it's sometimes I just wait until the end there. So the machine I'm actually doing my work on, I'm using Big Sur, but then I have my laptop and I'm running Monterey on that, and I get to do videos about Monterey using that machine.
Okay, great. Hopefully that answered the questions for you guys in the chat. Thank you.
Cool. Let's see, there's some other things in here. So a big change that's happening now is there's this new thing called iCloud Plus. So iCloud Plus is just a name change, right? Before we had iCloud, the free stuff, you get 5 gigs free, and you can, back up your iPhone and all of that. And then if you paid anything for some extra storage, that was just iCloud, but now you're paying something per month. Apple has named the thing that if you're paying a little bit per month, it's now iCloud Plus. And they've done that to say, we can now add new features into this. So before, if you paid for 50 gigs of storage, you got 50 gigs of storage. That was it. Now you pay for 50 gigs of storage, you're on iCloud Plus, you get your 50 gigs of storage, but also they're going to start throwing in additional features. A couple of those additional features are in system preferences. And if you go to search for it here. It's under your Apple ID there. Hide my email is one of them right here. We can select that, and it's going to say, because I'm on a demo account here, it's going to say you need to subscribe. So I do have some screenshots for what it looks like normally. So here you can see in the screenshot, there's hide my email, and private relay is the other feature. If I go into hide my email, it actually shows me a list of email addresses and allows you to create these special email addresses that are just random things, and they all forward to your iCloud email address. So previously, Apple used these when there was the sign on with Apple feature. You got that you went to a site and it says sign on with Facebook, sign on with Google, sign on with your Apple ID. If you use that feature, what Apple basically did was create a fake email address like this thing here. And it then, gave that site that fake email address. And then it went and it allowed you, anything that they emailed to you, it forwarded to you. So it kind of was this privacy measure. They never got your real email address. So that's why I've got several here that were actually created before. But now you can actually use the plus button here and create your own. And when you use the plus button, it picks a random set of words and numbers and symbols and stuff and says, here's an email address. There's a button here you can click for, choosing another one. And for some reason, you don't like that one. So you can't pick your own. It just kind of picks them for you. And then in addition to that, you can then go and give it a label, give it a note. So you can make a note like, if you're signing up for some sketchy website, you can say, what the website is you're signing up for and all of that. And then it creates it for you. And that is an email address that now you can go ahead and you see it here. And I can copy that email address and I could give it to somebody. So you could give it to a sketchy website or a website that you don't trust because they might send you spam or something, or you could give it to a person that you don't, particularly trust. And they can email you at this. It will forward to your iCloud email address, but they won't have your real email address. And then you could block this email address later on if you do end up getting spam from them. So basically, it allows you to create unlimited little aliases to use to help protect your privacy.
Will you only be able to access those alias email addresses from here, or would it pop up when you are creating an email? Like if you have multiple email addresses, you can select when you're creating an email and mail. Or
I get you.
Yeah.
Good question. Let's take a look at this. Just trying to get out of this. I have windows inside of windows inside of windows. Okay. So here, I don't think you can send from. So it's only from the one side of things. Like, yeah. Yeah, I don't think you can. Well, no, that's not it. That's a group.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you might just have to copy it every time you want to use it. So it's an intentional effort.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is to not be able to send email from that. The idea is to be able to receive email to you.
Okay.
I guess if you're at the point where you're sending the other person email, then there's got to be some sort of level of trust. But if you're signing up for a site, you're not sending them email. If you're signing up for a newsletter or a company has a special, we'll send you a deal at the beginning of every month. And you're like, well, I've been down this road before. You send me deals and then I can't unsubscribe ever, So this way you can give them this fake address. And then, when you actually get the email, it actually comes to that email, that weird, random email address. So not only can you block it, but you could filter it. So if you create one of these for the email from some company, it's going to send you a coupon every month. And you decide, I don't need to see these all the time. They just could go right into my archive folder and I can grab it if I need to. You can create a little filter, in your iCloud rules to just automatically, archive that message when it comes in because it'll be identified with that. So you have a lot of power for that. But I think the idea is not to send email from it ever.
Gary, can I have a question?
Yeah.
When you were at the email, starting with the new email, what would happen if you typed in 04?
Yeah.
When you start the email, would that automatically take? I'm just wanting to see if that.
Well, I mean, I'd have to do it. I'd have to pick who it's from. Right now, I don't even have that field because I only have one email account active, which is why. So it's not giving me the option to select who it's from. So I don't think you can.
But
yeah,
type 04 in 2 as the email address.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not asking. That's the address you had as the fake one.
Right. Yeah.
Started with that. And
yeah. So it doesn't recognize that.
It doesn't recognize it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
All right. Thank you, Frank. Chaz, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah. So I suppose if you reply,
to one of those alias emails. I wonder what, if it would work.
Yeah, I don't think, my guess is it wouldn't.
Hold on a second. 504. Shut up, machine. Thank you.
My guess is it wouldn't. You know, again, with going with the idea, if you're actually going to correspond with the person, then you're using your real email address. So it's just to protect you from the companies and things that are just sending you things, and your only communication may be logging into their website or, interacting with the email that came in, not necessarily actually corresponding with them. That would kind of make sense.
Understood.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jazz.
Yeah.
All right, all yours, Gary.
Yeah, so the other feature that you'll get with iCloud Plus is called Private Relay, and it's actually an option there in system preferences as well. It's a turn on, turn off kind of thing with one option here. It's similar to a VPN. So what Private Relay does is it's going to encrypt your data going from Safari to, the whatever server it is you're talking to. Actually encrypt from Safari, from your Mac to Apple, and then it goes on from there. So like VPN, it protects you from, say, the coffee shop or hotel's Wi-Fi that may be compromised in some way. Unlike a VPN, you can't really set a location. A lot of people use VPN to say, oh, I'm not in the United States, I'm in Germany, therefore I can watch the German TV show that's only available to, people in the country. You can't do that kind of thing with Private Relay. It's a much simpler thing. Matter of fact, you only have two options for hiding your location. One is to maintain your general location. So probably for me, it would still show that I'm in Denver, but maybe it wouldn't be that specific. Probably wouldn't know exactly where in Denver I am. Or I could say, no, I don't even want that. I just want country and time zone. So it's just going to be, I'm in the United States and Mountain Time Zone. Those are the only two options, where of course a VPN would provide far more options for location. And also VPNs have lots of things for like automatically switching on or off, or use with this app, but not that app, and that kind of thing. So Private Relay is kind of a simple VPN, but I think for like 80% of the people using VPNs, including me, this actually is all you need. I really only use VPNs just to protect myself against, maybe the Wi-Fi router at this conference center I'm at is compromised, so I want to be encrypted when going through it, and that's what this does. It also hides your IP address from the other end as well, which is something a VPN does. So, if I have a static IP address or an IP address that's not going to change for a week or two, a website can kind of track me and say, oh, you're the same person coming back over and over again. So now I can show you tailored ads or whatever. Whereas using Private Relay is going to mask my IP address. It'll look like it's an IP address from Apple, and it, wouldn't be able to track me as easily. I'm not as concerned about that as I am kind of the, being some sort of malicious Wi-Fi router. And then the other things VPN does, I don't really use that much, but I know other people do all the time. So,
Andrew Hathaway, can you unmute yourself and make your question or comment?
Yeah, my understanding though is that Private Relay does not encrypt it between you and your internet provider, so that your ISP will still be able to see the traffic that you're doing.
No, it does. It does. Yeah, you're basically connected to an Apple server somewhere where the encryption is happening between you and them. So your internet service provider wouldn't be able to see what it is you're doing. Of course, a lot of this is already true if you're not using Private Relay or a VPN. Anytime a website says HTTPS, that's a secure connection, and you're actually secure from your browser all the way to the service that you're connected to, the website you're connected to. And it used to be that was rare, and then it was common, and now it's almost 100% of the time you go to a website, it's HTTPS. So, Private Relay is just another layer of encryption on top of that. But it does definitely, it's between you and Apple that the encryption happens. There was one of the things you may have read, there was not really a bug, but there is another protocol that the internet web pages use to communicate. And that protocol wasn't covered by private relay. So it was the kind of thing where your data was encrypted, but technically if somebody wanted to track you, just like figure out, are you the same person that was on my site an hour ago, that kind of thing, they could have. But that actually wasn't a problem with Monterey, or isn't a problem with Monterey now. It was a problem with iOS 15. And it's a rare thing. And it's the kind of thing that's like kind of an ultra privacy concern, not really the, protecting your data kind of concern.
Right.
And private relay, well, I could see the commentary. It shouldn't reduce the speed any. I mean, your bottleneck's always going to be the actual speed of sending data, like out of your house across your local, that last mile to, your internet service. That's what's going to slow you down. Encrypting it and then decrypting the other end, that's super fast compared to anything else is going to slow you down.
Yeah. All right, 3 minutes.
Okay. So a bunch of other things that I could just show you in system preferences real quick. You've got passwords, a new feature here called passwords. This allows you to this allows you to see all your passwords, not only in Safari, but in system preferences as well. And that is really handy. You can also go in here and export your passwords or import them. So if you want to create a backup of all your passwords, you can. There's the option in dock and menu bar for menu bar. Before we had the option to automatically hide and show the menu bar on the desktop so the menu bar can go away. Now we have the option to do the same thing in full screen or split view, which before it was automatically on. Now you could turn it off, like I have it off here. And that means you can actually have full screen mode with the menu bar, which is something a lot of people are looking forward to. And there's a bunch of other cool stuff that's coming that's hard to show. Like you can use your Mac now as an AirPlay receiver. So you could have like AirPlay from your iPhone, share your screen to your Mac, and it turns your Mac like into an Apple TV, where you can actually just, mirror your iPhone screen onto your Mac screen, or mirror one Mac screen to another Mac's screen, just like you can, like your Mac is an Apple TV. And then we're also going to have universal control. It should be coming later in the year, early next year, which allows you to actually move your cursor. If I have a second Mac off to my right side here, I should be able to move my cursor over with the same trackpad, same mouse I'm using, and it actually starts to control the other Mac. And that's a feature that I know a lot of people are looking forward to.
Gary, last question. I have the same question as Bern and Bob. How does passwords affect keychain access?
So keychain access is the place that they're stored in, and keychain access is kind of the super techie utility app for accessing all of that. Passwords allows you to access the passwords portion of your keychain. So keychain access is unchanged. It's the same as it always was. We just, we had one little window into it in the passwords feature in Safari. Now we have a second window in the system preferences to go and look at the passwords as well.
All right. Santo has a very interesting question. Can you look in the chat and see his question, please? Very last one.
Lock the dock to, no, there's no change to how the dock locks to one monitor only. So no, I haven't seen any improvement there. I know that's a little frustrating. Sometimes I use two screens too.